I wasn't supposed to find that car. The map I was following didn't show anything unusual in that part of the jungle, just a stretch of dense, untouched land where even sunlight struggled to reach the ground. I had gone there chasing something simple. The thrill of discovery. The quiet satisfaction of uncovering forgotten objects left behind by time. But what I found that day was something else entirely. Something that didn't just sit there abandoned. It felt hidden, buried under layers of vines, mud, and decades of decay. There was a shape that didn't belong to nature. At first, I thought it was just another rusted machine, maybe an old farming tool or a broken vehicle dragged deep into the wilderness and forgotten. But as I pushed branches aside and stepped closer, I felt something shift. The air felt heavier, quieter, and then I saw it clearly. A car. Not just any car, but something far older than anything I had ever seen in person. The body was almost unrecognizable, eaten away by rust and time, its metal frame exposed like bones. The tires had collapsed into the earth, and the windows were shattered, leaving jagged edges that caught the dim light. Yet despite its condition, there was something strangely intact about it, something deliberate. It didn't look like it had simply been abandoned. It looked placed, like it had been brought here for a reason. I circled it slowly, my boots crunching on dry leaves, my eyes scanning every detail. The design was unlike modern vehicles. Rounded edges, a narrow frame, details that hinted at a time long before mass production. It looked like one of the earliest cars ever built, something that belonged in a museum, not rotting in the middle of nowhere. That realization alone was enough to send a chill down my spine. Who would leave something so valuable out here? And why had no one come back for it? I reached out and touched the surface, and flakes of rust crumbled under my fingers, falling away like dust. The silence around me was overwhelming. No birds, no wind, just the faint sound of my own breathing. That's when I noticed something that didn't make sense. The doors. They were closed tightly, almost sealed, as if whatever was inside had been deliberately protected from the outside world. I tried one of the handles. It didn't move. Locked. All of them were locked. That was the moment curiosity began to turn into something else. Unease. Because cars like this don't end up in places like this by accident. And they don't stay locked for decades without a reason. I stepped back, trying to take it all in, trying to convince myself it was just an old relic, nothing more. But the longer I stood there, the more it felt like I had interrupted something. Like the car had been waiting, not to be found, but to be left alone. Still, I couldn't walk away. Not without knowing. Not without understanding what I was really looking at. So I decided to take a closer look, even though every instinct I had was telling me to stop. The closer I examined the car, the more details began to emerge from beneath the layers of decay. The front grille, though bent and rusted, carried a faint emblem, one I couldn't immediately recognize, but it hinted at craftsmanship from a completely different era. The interior, barely visible through the broken windows, looked surprisingly preserved compared to the exterior. That contrast alone was unsettling. It was as if time had attacked the outside but somehow spared what was within. I wiped away dirt from the edge of the window and leaned in, trying to see more clearly. The seats were torn but still held their shape. The steering wheel, though cracked, remained firmly in place. And then I saw something that made my heart skip. A small metal box, tucked beneath the dashboard, partially hidden, almost intentionally concealed. It didn't belong to the usual structure of the car. It looked added, like someone had placed it there after everything else was built. That's when the feeling returned, stronger than before. This wasn't just an abandoned car, this was a hiding place. I stepped back again, scanning the surroundings as if expecting someone, or something, to be watching. The jungle remained silent, unmoving, but the tension in the air had changed. I knew I had a choice in that moment. Walk away and leave the mystery untouched, or go deeper and risk discovering something I might not be ready for. Curiosity won. It always does. I searched around the car until I found a piece of metal strong enough to force the door open. The sound it made when it finally gave in was sharp and unnatural, echoing through the trees like a warning. I froze, listening, but nothing responded. Slowly, carefully, I pulled the door open. A cloud of dust rose into the air, carrying a smell that felt ancient, like something sealed away for generations. I hesitated before stepping closer, my mind racing with possibilities. Treasure? Historical documents? Or something far worse? With a deep breath, I reached inside and pulled the metal box free. It was heavier than I expected, cold to the touch and sealed tightly. My hands were shaking now, not from fear alone, but from the weight of the unknown. Whatever was inside this box had been hidden deliberately, protected for decades, maybe even longer. And now, for the first time, it was about to be seen again. I sat down on a nearby rock, the box resting in my lap, and stared at it for a long moment. Part of me wanted to leave it closed, to respect whatever reason it had been hidden in the first place, but another part of me needed to know. Slowly, I pried it open. The seal broke with a faint crack, and the lid lifted just enough for me to see inside. What I found wasn't gold, or jewels, or anything I had imagined. It was something far more unsettling. Papers. Old, fragile papers, carefully folded and preserved. Photographs, their edges worn but their images still visible. And at the very bottom, a single, handwritten letter. The moment I saw it, I knew this wasn't just a discovery. This was a story waiting to be told. And somehow, I had become part of it. I unfolded the letter with extreme care, afraid that even the slightest pressure might cause it to crumble. The handwriting was faded but still legible, each word written with a precision that suggested urgency and intent. As I began to read, the world around me seemed to disappear. The sounds of the jungle, the weight of the air, even my own presence in that place. All of it faded into the background as the story on that page came to life. The letter spoke of a man, the original owner of the car, who had gone to great lengths to keep something hidden. He described being followed, watched, and eventually forced to abandon everything he had built. The car, according to him, was not just a vehicle. It was a container, a final refuge for something he believed could not fall into the wrong hands. He never explicitly stated what that something was, but the tone of the letter made it clear that it was important enough to risk everything. He wrote about choosing that remote location deliberately, knowing that it would remain untouched for years, perhaps even forever. And then, near the end, the letter changed. The words became more hurried, less controlled, as if he had been running out of time. That's when I read the line that made my chest tighten. If you are reading this, then I have failed. And if I have failed, then you should not be here. I paused, looking up from the letter, suddenly aware of my surroundings again. The silence felt different now, not peaceful, but watchful. I continued reading, my hands slightly trembling. The final lines were even more direct. Leave this place. Do not take anything. Some things are hidden for a reason. I lowered the letter slowly, my mind racing. For a moment, I considered the possibility that it was just a story, a relic of paranoia from someone long gone. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. The effort it must have taken to bring the car here, to seal it, to hide that box, it all pointed to something real, something deliberate. I looked back at the contents of the box, the photographs, the documents, and felt a growing sense of responsibility. This wasn't mine to take. This wasn't mine to uncover further. Whatever truth was buried here had remained hidden for decades, and maybe it was meant to stay that way. Carefully, I placed everything back into the box, closed it, and returned it to its place inside the car. I stepped away, taking one last look at the vehicle that had brought me into its story. It stood there, silent and unmoving, as if nothing had changed. But everything had. As I turned and began to walk away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, not by something physical, but by the weight of the past itself. Some discoveries bring answers. Others only leave you with more questions. And this was one of those discoveries. I never went back to that place. I never told anyone the exact location. Because some secrets aren't meant to be found, and some stories are better left buried, are better